Good morning. There's Brand Thornton from Alamo, Nevada. The title of this video is going to be why I think Joseph Lombardo will be a good governor. Okay. For those who don't know, Joseph Lombardo was the officer in charge at the Bundy standoff after Sheriff Gillespie left. Okay. And under him was Sheriff Tom Roberts. And a side note is Sheriff Tom Roberts is running for sheriff. Now, let me adjust this a little bit here. Get my ugly face in there the way it's supposed to be. Okay. That might come as a surprise to some people that I would say that Joseph Lombardo, I think, is going to be a good sheriff. Because he did lie on the stand. He did lie on the stand during the trials, the Bundy standoff trials. And, that put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. But I was there. And I have information that, inside information, that I've told a few people about. And it is basically this. There's another gentleman there who's incognito, who's actually working for the federal government, by the name of Dan Sheese. Well, Dan Sheese was mixing in and out with all the people that was attending this court proceedings. And he was spreading rumors. He was spreading lies. And nobody knew who he was. He looked professional enough. And, I just figured he was some professional. It turns out he was part of the prosecuting. He was one of the prosecuting attorneys. He's a part of that group. So he had, I don't remember the young man's name, but there is Nadia Ahmed, Steve Myrie, and Dan Sheese. And there's another guy who, during his closing arguments, did a really poor job in one of the first tier and that was shown, which was, I don't know, I think was actually the second tier, but they, brought them before the court first. They tried them first. And yeah, Dan Sheese was out there incognito, spreading rumors, spreading lies, trying to basically to divide the people in the courtroom. And I'm not even going to reply to or reiterate what he was saying, but I think he did get in some hot water over there. There's a gentleman named Michael Griffin who got my testimony, Shauna Cox's testimony, and one other lady's written testimony. We gave him written testimonies, is what he said. And he said the same thing to Michael Griffin. Now, Michael Griffin had, if I remember correctly, he told me he had 40 years. He was an older gentleman like me, had 40 years of law enforcement. And I asked him which law enforcement, and he declined to say, and that's fine enough with me. But him and Dan Sheese, it was Michael Griffin reacted not in kind to Dan Sheese lie, because Dan Sheese was telling Michael Griffin this rumor, this lie, which was actually like 3 different lies, and they're really bad. And I remember Michael Griffin and just screaming outside of the courtroom just before we were going onto the elevator, and at this Dan Sheese, and screaming, "You get away from me!" And I mean, he made no compunction about how emphatic he was. I mean, he was extremely emphatic. I mean, everybody heard it. So anyhow, when Joseph Lombardo took the stand, the first thing I noticed is when he walked right by me. I was right on the edge of that of the seats there, and man, he looked discombobulated. His uniform was wrinkly, hadn't been pressed. His hair was a mess. He looked very conflicted. He had bags under his eyes like he hadn't been sleeping. And he went on the stand. And as far as I'm concerned, he did it. Even though he lied, he did a pretty good job as far as putting doubt in the jury's mind whether these men were guilty or not. Because his court presence, as Dan Sheehy said, that's the worst court presence I've ever seen. But then Dan Sheehy says, but the feds got him between a rock and a hard spot. And I never really gave much thought to that. Until sometime later, I started thinking, what did he mean by that? You know? And, well, he was the one that told the Bureau of Land Management, take a hike, you know, during the Bundy standoff at Tonkawa Wash. He's the one that says, hey, get out of here. Him and Sheriff Tom Roberts. Okay? So, oh, okay. Then, you know, little light bulbs go off in my head. I'm sure they had threatened him. They probably threatened Sheriff Tom Roberts, too, that they would be arrested and prosecuted for conspiracy. That's their favorite thing, conspiracy. That's their catch-all to get everybody, the great conspiracy. So, anyhow, here recently, you know, well, let me back up. Joseph Lombardo is running for governor. And there was one other bad experience, October 7th, it was October 1st, 1917. What do they call it? The festival, where over something like 55 people were shot and killed and something like 500 were wounded. By the way, my nephew was there and he did get shot. And no lasting real problems from that with him, William King. But Sheriff Lombardo, I'm convinced, knew all the ins and outs of that. He knew. There's another reason. There's several reasons why I think he knew what was going on. I had a call from a security person who worked at that hotel, and he told me the FBI took over the 32nd floor. Took over the 32nd floor where the shooter was supposedly shooting from. And they took it over, and when I say they took over the surveillance 2 weeks before the shooting took place. The FBI knew exactly what was going on, you know? And I think it was basically a sting that went bad. That's what I finally come to the conclusion of. And that the people that were actually involved in that, Middle Easterners are actually involved in that. I think I got to be careful what I say here on YouTube. But they were busted not too long after that, January 1st. A bunch of them, which you never heard about, were face down on the ground on the strip with, they had high-powered rifles or something like close to a dozen of them. And they were going to do another mass killing. And I believe very strongly that they were involved in that first one. And I believe the FBI knows it too, but the FBI can't let anything out. They can't let anything out. And do you remember how quickly the FBI wrapped up their investigation? It was like a matter of a couple of days. And you want to know why? Because I got some inside information on it. People, let me remind you, I was born and raised in Las Vegas, and I've worked on the Strip. And I know a lot of people that work on the Strip, and especially security. Well, the FBI was going in and wanting the video surveillance around those casinos that were involved in that. And there was quite a few casinos. There's probably a half a dozen casinos that are involved that got, I know my son works at New York, and they took bullets. There was shooting going on, but you never heard about that. But there is all kinds of shooting that's going on along that strip. So here comes the FBI, and they go, okay, we'll give you copies. No, we want it all. We don't want anything left behind. And guess what? The security did. Now, a lot of those security people are working part-time. They're actually deputy sheriffs or police, okay? Las Vegas police. And and I'm sure Joseph Lombardo heard about all this too, that the FBI is coming in trying to confiscate all their surveillance. They said, take a hike. And when they couldn't get that, that's when the FBI said, oh, well, we're out of here. I think it was 3 days later. We're out of here. Our investigation's done. I talked to my nephew in the hospital. I said, did the FBI ever come in and talk to you? He goes, no, they never did come in and talk to me. Okay. Oh, actually, they did. And he tried to tell, let me back up. I'm sorry. They actually did. They were very, very short time, and it went like this. Tell us what happened. Somebody shot me on the ground, shot me in the back. No, that didn't happen. You got shot. No, I got shot. Now, we saw a girl running towards Hooters, which is towards the northeast, away from the shooter. And she got shot in the face and killed right in front of them. Okay? The other guy said, no, you didn't see that. You didn't see that. That didn't happen. Okay, that was it. End of interview. It was real quick and fast. I got that directly from my nephew. Okay, so anyhow, I'm sure Joseph Lombardo knows about the FBI, how crooked they are, and it's getting everywhere. They're just the most crooked people on the face of the earth right now. Some of the most evil people. So again, backing up, Joseph Lombardo was deeply conflicted in testifying against the Patriots of the Bundy standoff, and Dan Shees pretty well tipped the cards. You know, I could see. I mean, I saw all the cards. I didn't think much about it at the time, but he said, yeah, and the Feds got him between a rock and a hard spot. And that told me why he was up there having such a hard time, because he knew the truth. He knew the truth. In fact, he had to come out earlier, like a few years before, on mainstream media in Las Vegas and said, well, we didn't arrest anybody because they didn't break the law. Okay? They didn't break the law. So now there's a very interesting thing that recently took place. It was a debate between Sisolak, Governor Sisolak, who is running again, and Joseph Lombardo. And it turns out it was heavily edited for the public. People didn't get to see everything that was taking place there. And there's 360 News who got the unedited version. And they didn't put it out there. Maybe copyright laws, I don't know. But they said one part was very interesting. And that was Joseph Lombardo pointed his finger at Governor Sisolak, said, if I'm elected governor, I'm going to hold you accountable what you have done to this state. Okay. So I think Joseph Lombardo was just fed up with a lot of stuff. He got caught up in a situation that a lot of people would have probably done the same thing, you know. But then I think it has stirred him up enough over a period of time that if he becomes governor, I think he's going to be a good governor. And I know Sheriff Tom Roberts is going to be a good sheriff. So I'm going to vote for both of them. And I want everybody else to vote for them also. Joseph Lombardo for governor and Tom Roberts, Deputy Tom Roberts for sheriff. And I'm going to say I'm going to vote for Laxalt also for senator. Okay, over and out. Bye-bye. Thank you.